Hello and welcome back to Scale Down Customs. This is going to be part 2 of the Revell Ford Bronco build, the first generation Ford Bronco. So we got most of our interior parts painted in white, including the top. It got a little bit of dust in there, so I'm not sure. I might try to sand that down and add a couple more coats of white on there, but we'll see what I'm going to do with that. And we're going to move ahead with painting some of our black components like the frame rails and the axles, things like that. So let's go spray some black. Alright, so here's the deal. I know I said I really like this chrome, and I still do, but one of the things that I struggle with is on the sprue cut points. It's a little challenging to kind of blend them in with the rest of the chrome. The Maltol chrome works pretty well to do that, but I've got a little bit of flashing, and I've decided that I am just going to go ahead and strip this down, get these parts cleaned up, get all the flashing cleaned up, and then re-chrome them back up, or paint them aluminum, or whatever other colors I want to. So I'm just going to be using my Easy Off oven cleaner, and I'll get this in a container and spray it down, let it sit for 10-15 minutes, and rinse it off, and we'll be ready to clean those parts up and get them ready for primer and paint. Alright, so I got all the little tiny chrome parts de-chromed and cut off the sprue and cleaned up and in primer. That was really fun. So next we're going to be using the all-clad method for chrome again. So gloss black base, followed by some light dustings of the all-clad chrome. All right, so I got my chrome parts re-chromed again, looking pretty good. So we're ready to move ahead with those. So I'm going to move ahead with painting some of the other pieces, which includes the engine block. And for the engine block, I'm going to be painting that Ford engine blue. And I'm going to try this new paint I just got from Model Car World. I found these guys online and decided to try some of their paint. So we're going to be using this for the engine block. So in preparation for paint, I just need to mask off the transmission, and then we'll be ready to paint that. And then I also want to mask off, so I got the rim painted white, and then I need to mask that off so that I can paint the tire black and then finish painting the tire cover white again. So we're going to mask up these and go get them painted. All right, so to cut the tape out for the center, I'm going to be using this really handy tool that I purchased online. This is from thinnerline.com, and this is a circle cutter. And so I'm gonna use my micrometer, and we're gonna measure out the distance in here, and then transfer that to the circle cutter, and then cut out my tape. All right, that tool is amazing. I love that tool just for this purpose. To cut out a perfect circle like that is just invaluable. All right, so for my gray, I'm gonna be using the Gravity Colors Tire Gray to paint that tire up, and back to the spray booth. A little heavy on there and got a little bit of bleed through, but we'll see if we can fix that later. All right, got the engine painted up, and before we get to final assembly on this, I want to add a wash to it. And so the method I've been using lately is the Mr. Hobby. This is their Mr. Weathering color, the multi-black, and then just their solvent, the Mr. Hobby Solvent 110. So we're going to put it on pretty heavy and then take it back off. All right, so now we're just going to start kind of thinning it down and then kind of removing it with some of those Q-tips. But we basically want to take this off all the high spots and let it sit down into the low spots in the shadows. so I got that looking where I want it. I'm going to do a little accent painting, just to paint the oil pan bolts silver and a couple of bolts on the fan just to bring out some accents. All right, let's glue some parts together. So I'm going to be using my gap filling medium super glue, and let's assemble the engine up. Alright, so that decal is a 302. So this is probably a 71 Ford Bronco. I'm sure you guys that know all those details would know that, but yeah, this evidently is a 302 engine, so there we go, engine done. All right, so I got my shock absorbers all painted up, so we're ready for to start assembling the chassis. So let's get to doing that. So again, for my glue, I'm just going to be using the CA glue, the medium. I get this from MRS Hobby Shop in my area. So yeah, let's start putting the chassis together. So one thing I do want to do is I want to try to get a little bit better of a contact on these glue points, and so I'm going to scrape off the paint and the primer down to the plastic just to give the super glue a little bit more to bond to rather than bonding to the paint. And then just to kind of quicken the dry time, I'm just going to use some CA kicker or the accelerator for that. love how elaborate this chassis is. The shock absorbers, the drag link, crossbars, steering stabilizer shock. I love this. I think that turned out really nice. Alright, so I'm going to add a little bit of weathering underneath here and add a little more touch-up paint, but overall I think that looks really good. Alright, I decided to add just a little bit of a little weathering underneath, and I just used some silver and just kind of used a toothpick and just kind of made some scratches on the underbody where maybe rocks and things are going to be hitting. And so I want to add just a little bit more, and so we're going to do a little dry brushing with some German gray. So I just kind of want to take this and just kind of run it over some of these areas just to give me some highlights. A little better, just a little light dusting, and then maybe just a little bit of brown over that. There we go. Looks a little better. All right, good. Just a little bit. Let's get the wheels finished up and installed onto the chassis. So I got the rims painted white, and the axle's just kind of an aluminum, and I just want to highlight the axle lockers red. I guess my camera decided to run out of space, so I got my hub locks painted red. So we're gonna get these things assembled, and I got the tread on my tires sanded down because, as you can tell by the chassis, this is driven, so we did sand down the tread on these tires as well. So I do like to glue, I prefer to glue my wheels on just because I don't need these rolling off the shelf and crashing to the floor. Plus I like to get them a little more stable. Sometimes if you don't glue them in, they get a little wobbly. So I also like to glue them in just to avoid that as well. But that's my preference, you don't have to do that. Alright, so I decided to add a little more weathering on the tires, just with my pastel chalks. Just kind of dust them in there and then rub them back off. Sometimes I use my fingers or the sponge part of the brush. Anyway, but just decided to add a little more weathering under there. Alright, so I think that'll do it for this video. Make sure you stay tuned for the next one, because we're going to start working on the body, getting it painted, getting the interior completed and painted and assembled, and get this build finished up. So thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.